And welcome to this edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest, joined immediately out of the chute here by one of my favorite degenerate handicappers, and that would be one Troy West from Troy Wins. And as we were getting going here and figuring out how we were going to tap into the show, he starts telling me a story, a horror story, which we love this about. And I know you were an advocate of this going way back to when we first started Bury Your Bookie, these money line parlays. And I've been struggling a little bit transitioning out of football for some reason, a position I never thought I would be in from a mental standpoint as a degenerate gambler. But you're on a three-teamer last night, moneyline parlay. First couple of legs, well, I'll let you describe it. I mean, you started out with the UConn game, which they were making a nice comeback. What was the theory behind this bet?
Yeah, so the odds are about minus 150. It's kind of a theory we've done for a while. We love getting home teams, between that 7 and 8 line. Most of these teams fit that mold. UConn had a nice comeback win. Villanova scored 6 points in the final 11:30 in that game, which is unheard of. Florida ends up blasting uh, Oklahoma last night. And then, last but not least, UCLA at home. They had just lost to Minnesota at Minnesota a couple weeks ago. You would think you'd be fine there. UCLA's up 34-23 at halftime. Minnesota scores 41 points in the
Oh, man.
second half and takes down UCLA in the final seconds. So that was just, it never seems to me. I'm going to be curious how pissed off Mick Cronin is today, because that guy has not been a happy camper this year.
Yeah, I mean, holy Marcus Johnson. Where's the talent when you need it? But in the case of your wager, I mean, home free, you get not necessarily a miraculous comeback, but like you said, a miraculous turnaround in that UConn game, which it looked like they were going down. Gators were sailing their way, now number 2 team in the country, and all of a sudden starting to catch a little bit more attention, even though they've been very good all year long. Didn't they start out like 17-0 or something like that? They were dynamite out of the chute. And so, and breezing their way to an easy victory. And then you said you were up, like 8 points with 3 minutes to go in this game?
8 points with 3 to go. And they just kept crawling in, bucket here, a turnover here, a bucket here, turnover here. And next thing you know, your bet is you're ripping up your slip.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. And that's why the old adage still applies. I mean, this is as old school as it gets, that if you're betting the side or the over under, just individually, and this goes back, over 50 years, this adage, then they send a taxi cab for you.
Yeah,
And if you're
exactly.
betting parlays, limousine. All of a sudden, you snap your fingers and bingo. Yeah, take him to the Rio. He wants to go right to the sports book, and that's how it's been the ruination of a lot of people. It's how all of these gambling sites are thriving by the small money parlay. Speaking of which, if you want to make one, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion, Troy West, with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to the hat trick that you might witness, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So I know you dabble in everything, Troy West. And that's one of the things that we all love about you here at Bury Your Bookie. You'll bet on if there are two insects, two cockroaches in the sink. You'll bet which one will get to the drain first when you turn on the light. All right, and there are a lot of people like that, I'm sure, in our viewing and listening audience. But hockey is one of those things I've never really gotten a great handle on. I haven't delved into betting NHL action. I know a lot of people love it now. But in my lifetime, and you would think this, I mean, the NBA All-Star game has now dissipated into something that, if you've been a sports fan your whole life, like you and I have, and you've been around a little while anyway, I mean, could you ever anticipate less interest in an All-Star game than there was for this year's NBA All-Star game? Like, I didn't even know what it was. I never thought I wouldn't be able to comprehend exactly what they were doing. And the NHL All Star game had kind of declined into that state. And yet now, I mean, tomorrow night, I would imagine there'll be tremendous action on this game. I'm not sure if it began with the Trump administration, but when did the United States and Canadian relations break apart to the point where they're beating the shit out of each other before the game even starts? Have you ever seen a more wildly anticipated sort of all-star game than, of all places, this year's NHL action.
No, as a matter of fact, I was saying yesterday, it doesn't feel like that we're talking about an all-star game. It almost feels like they're going for a gold medal tomorrow.
Yeah.
They've just done such a great job of marketing it, and yeah, I mean the non-hockey fans are going to tune into that tomorrow just because of what's at stake and the effort that's being put forth. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game tomorrow.
Did Trump and Trudeau get together and decide that whoever wins this game is actually going to own the other person's territory, which has been widely discussed in political circles, whether we should annex Canada to be the 51st state? I mean, is that on the table in this game? It seems like
It sure
this
seems
is
like
like
it.
the
Yeah.
USA Russian hockey game of the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics.
It sure it does. It sure seems like it. It seems like there's alternative motives other than just winning the NHL All-Star game. Like I said, it seems like there's a lot at stake tomorrow night. I don't know if it's just bragging rights or hey, we won the NHL All-Star game.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's much more at stake tomorrow.
Now, was there action? Was there a prop bet out there that they would drop the gloves before the puck hit the ice? Could you have made that wager? I mean, you can pretty much bet on anything now, so that would have been an interesting proposition. Are you handicapping this game on your service? Do you have any kind of inclination as to what might transpire?
We've done okay so far in this tournament. Tomorrow looks tough. I mean, you got the USA minus 115 again. They were minus 115 last time they faced off. The USA does have an injury. I can't come out and say how key that injury is, but I know they did have a starter go out in that last game in meaningless time. How hard is it to beat a team twice in the same week? Right, that's the next question. They will be at home. That game will obviously be played in TD Garden and here in Boston. Last game was in Canada, so now you've got the home ice, which I think will actually have a big deal, have a big part in this one. So I would lean USA, but you got to think it's tough beating a Canadian team twice in the same week.
It's amazing, really. I mean, I used to love the baseball All Star game. I'm sort of indifferent to it now. I don't know. Some people would attribute that to the idea that the leagues now with interleague play, they're familiar with each other and they've played against each other. It wasn't like you were waiting to see your American League guys against the National League guys that you had heard so much about if you grew up as a kid, as a Yankee fan, like I was. NBA, we don't know what it is anymore. This was wild, and the Pro Bowl, of course, has deteriorated into. I mean, you thought you were watching the Superstars competition, no? When you were watching the pro
Horrible.
football NFL All Star activities, what is that now? I mean, it's gone down to the level of being all about a tug of war. Which there were people. I don't know. Did you ever know anybody? You probably are too young to remember guys that tried to get out on the Pro Bowl after an NFL season, and they used to play the Pro Bowl game after the Super Bowl, and that was the final football bet, and people would actually like send it in on the Pro Bowl, which the game was essentially a joke. I don't know. Did you have any theory on betting All Star games or All Star activities? Are you inclined to dive into that form of degeneracy?
No, and I get it a little bit from the injury standpoint. Baseball's done a good job with it, keeping it relevant. And, I don't really necessarily agree with what baseball did with the home field in the World Series there for a while, but at least the game was entertaining and you got the best of both teams. With football, what are you going to do? It would be so fun to see both teams line it up, but you just obviously can't risk that injury bug. The NBA, this year, I like that they dumbed it down. I like that they made it quick, versus a 4-quarter game. I think that they've got something they can at least build off of. The thing that struck me is, gosh, it's kind of like, with the Pro Bowl, everybody makes it, right? There's no, you know, making it isn't a big deal anymore like it used to be. I used to say, oh, 12-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, blah, blah. Now
Yeah.
at this point, if you made the Pro Bowl 10 times, I mean, my God, it's not a resume builder anymore, right?
Oh,
So
great.
I do hope they can figure out the NBA All-Star game because, I mean, I didn't, like you said, I didn't hate it. I thought at least it went by quicker and it was fun to see some of the players go up against each other and whatnot. But it still needs major tweaking.
All right. Baseball, how far in advance do you start diving in with your guys, trying to figure out what's going to happen in baseball? And what do you look to I hope you're not looking to make a score in spring training games. There'll probably be somebody out there that calls us assholes if we denounce betting spring training. But how the hell could you bet on spring training games unless, I mean, maybe with some inside information that somehow the ace was going to go 6 innings in a ball game, and probably so. But I mean, what kind of strategies do you think about early in the baseball season? Are you inclined to bet season long props like totals? Because that can be an enjoyable wager, kind of get you through the whole year, and you can slow ride $100 slow ride a stick on the entire season and have reason to watch every ball game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think with baseball, you start diving into it now without a doubt. Just what teams you think might trend on overs this year, which team will trend on unders, pitching matchups, schedules, travel, all that kind of stuff. You start diving into it. But yeah, to think that you're going to sit here and bet spring training and make money at it, like you said, you never know. If you could pick your spots with a starting pitcher that's going to go deeper and maybe know some of the bullpen guys that may get some time, you could look at some of the unders and whatnot, but. To say that there's value in spring training, I'd be kidding you.
That has to be beyond the roll of the dice there. I mean, you have a better chance at a craps table. Certainly roulette. I would think. I mean, and there's probably some expert out there that puts out spring training selections and as claimed, to make a lifetime score, which it does seem unfathomable. I mean, when you're watching a spring training game, I remember I'm like half falling asleep, then all of a sudden Tim Tebow's grabbing a bat. And that was the only interesting aspect of it. I couldn't tell you who won the ball game because I don't know that anybody cared. He flew out to left field, by the way, and the crowd went nuts. So the ball actually left the bat and was in the air. Yeah, what was he? I don't know whose attempt was worse. You would have to say Michael Jordan's attempt was more fugazi to be a Major League Baseball player than Tim Tebow's. No,
Probably right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You're right. There's a few of those out there, and it's oh gosh. No, I'm with you. I'd have to go with Michael Jordan for sure.
all right, I've turned my attention to college basketball. I was talking with Scotty M yesterday. He gave us a couple of selections. I know one went up in flames. I'm not sure how the other two did. I didn't have a chance to really check that out, but hopefully he won the other two ball games for you on the show yesterday. We were talking about, and everybody's looking for sort of teams that are outside of the spotlight, not necessarily like Auburn's ranked number one and you're seeing Florida now having a really good season. These are teams that would be obvious choices. Houston, I guess, maybe rounds out 5 or 6 teams that people would suggest could win it all. Are you trying to spotlight that 25, 30 to 1 shot, Troy West, yet for NCAA tournament play? Is it too soon to see any kind of tendency? I mean, I remember a good buddy of mine who was a very good scout, good gambler. He was talking to me about Marquette when they made a one to the Final Four with Dwayne Wade. He said, "You ought to watch this kid. He's really something." Nobody was really talking about him at the time, and then sure enough, I mean, you could cash a lot of big tickets betting these teams as underdogs. So, are you scouting with your service any teams like that, or do you have any in mind?
Well, we do have some long shot money with. I don't feel as good about it as I did in the start
Gonzaga?
with Gonzaga at 40
Yeah.
to 1. Houston was another one that we really liked. Florida, it looks good. A lot of people have really shrunk this thing down and they think it's a two team race between Auburn and Duke. But I think both those teams are somewhat vulnerable. Iowa State's a really nice basketball team. Arizona's another long shot that I don't hate. That's a team that's just they're gritty. They've lost 2 in a row recently, but they bounced back and got a big win at Baylor the other night. So those are some teams I think that definitely have some value. I think if you took them now, there's hedging opportunities down the road.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And we'll get a clearer picture as the regular season closes out. Michigan State coming up over the weekend could be a good matchup there. A couple of teams that would be considered outsiders. Although Dusty May got FAU to the Final Four and certainly has Michigan playing some high caliber basketball. And everybody who doesn't like Tom Izzo and want to see him win a couple of rounds in the tournament? Is there anybody out there? Holy Magic Johnson! How could you hate Michigan State? It's I know as long as he's coaching, a real affable guy. Well, we were getting on a bus to go to actually some function at the Final Four when you're in Houston, And Izzo thought that, and I don't know if you know my buddy Mike Luby Lewitz. I think you've been on that show, do another show on Bleacher Brothers with, more of a general sports show. And he mistook us for coaches, and he was getting us a seat on the bus. If you can imagine that. I'm thinking, how does Tom Izzo not know that we have no business getting on this bus with like Calipari and all of these other guys? So always liked him for that, for thinking that we somehow belonged on the sidelines there. All right. Watching some of the action last night, there was some interesting stuff taking place. As you said, Gators rolling. Purdue and Michigan State. Michigan State prevails there, and that was great. And now a half game back in the Big Ten with two games coming up against Michigan and Dusty May. Anything strike your fancy tonight, Troy West, where our guys out there can make some money?
Yes, I got three games for you tonight. The first one, Bradley goes on the road in the MVC conference. Bradley is -1.5 at Illinois State. I've tailed this Bradley team quite a bit. 21-6, 12-4 in the conference. Really good basketball team. I like Bradley to get the job done. -1.5 at Illinois State. And then I would take you to the West Coast. Washington State. This is 6 p.m. Pacific time, ESPN2. Washington State is getting 13.5 at home against Gonzaga. Washington State has not been playing good basketball as of late, but that is way too many points. Give me 13.5 at home in the rival game. I like that a lot. And then I actually I like your South Beach, Miami. Miami is
Oh yeah, get
getting
at it.
8.5. They're getting 8.5 tonight against Florida State. Two poor basketball teams. I think Florida State's obviously the better team in that one, but neither team much to play for. Just the rival factor in Florida, cross-state rivals. Give me Miami +8.5 against Florida State.
It's interesting because they've certainly been infused with signs of life, as they say on thoroughbred racing. The University of Miami, and it came coincidentally with us, Mike Jones and I, both condemning them as a team to just straight up bet against the rest of the way. Mike, who was on the sidelines there with his buddy Parcells when he was working as an equipment manager with the Giants, said that he had seen a complete loss of heart after the departure of Jim Larinaga as head coach, and that he would bet against the University of Miami the rest of the season, thinking they were going to get buried no matter how many points. And of course, they came right out and covered a point spread the next game, then won outright. And they haven't been that bad since. I mean, and I'm with you. Leonard Hamilton's already kind of a lame duck head coach there, and not sure if they've got an inclination as to who's going to take over, if it's somebody already on the staff. And Florida State not exactly playing stellar basketball, so 8.5 looks pretty good. All right, how can people get more of your picks? I know you're practically giving stuff away now, Troy West. So how does that work?
Yeah, get to the website. We're still doing 7 days free. That will go away. 7 days free. That's troywins.com. The Instagram is It's Troy West. It's not time to quit now, guys. March Madness is right around the corner. We cover UFC, hockey, college basketball, NBA. There's still a ton of stuff going on. So get to the website, troywins.com. We'd love to help you out.
NBA, you're getting back in action. I thought I saw you do a couple of dunks like that guy that won the slam dunk, too.
Yeah, yep, exactly right. Exactly.
All right, Troy,
That's
thanks so
what
much.
we're good.
Always appreciate you being on the show. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
All
it.
right, Troy West, ladies
Bye.
and gentlemen. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's today's edition of Bury Your